again, everybody. Every year about this time, notes start coming home from school alerting parents about the threat of head lice or even about an outbreak. Apparently, 'tis the season. Every year about this time, the notes do come home, and we find out that we need to do something with our kids according to the policy of the school. So our expert today, lice expert Nancy Gordon, is adept at preventing lice as well as treating them, and she has a few things to say to us today. Nancy, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us the name of your business.
The name of my business is Lice Knowing You.
I love that. That's completely funny. So why do we hear about the infestations this time of year?
Well, actually, lice is not a seasonal issue. Lice is a year-round problem. I think this time of year, as the weather warms up, you tend to spot lice more frequently on the head just because they're moving more freely about the head. But the reality is lice is around all year.
All the time.
All the time.
Now, what are the myths about this? Parents sort of freak out. They think, oh my gosh, it has to do with hygiene. It's so embarrassing. I'll keep my kid home, all that stuff.
Head lice have nothing to do with hygiene. In fact, they don't discriminate based on your socioeconomic status.
They don't check us out first?
They're an equal opportunity bug.
Okay.
That's what I like to tell people.
How do they spread, really?
They mostly spread head-to-head contact. They can spread by the sharing of coats, hats, brushes, things like that, personal accessories, but they mostly spread through head-to-head contact, which is why you see it so commonly in school-age children,
right,
and then subsequently in parents because they snuggle and hug their kids.
Right. And so the kids are just playing, wrestling around, sharing
exactly.
a hat, whatever.
And if you ever observe a classroom of elementary school kids, they're really working closely together. If you observe a group of middle school girls, they can't say hi to each other without throwing themselves around each other and hugging. And
there is a lot of hugging in middle school with the girls, as though they haven't seen each other in 5 years, and then they greet. So let's talk about how to prevent head lice. We're going to have information on our website about how to treat this problem should it come to your household, but let's talk first about how just not to have it happen.
Well, I mean, of course I can tell you 50 ways to prevent head lice. There's no way that's 100% foolproof. It's really being diligent in things that you do to try to prevent it. If you have long hair, wearing it back in ponytails or braids, keeping it, not so long hanging,
right,
so it can move, freely and bugs can crawl up like a ladder. Not sharing, again, coats, hats, or brushes, keeping your stuff to yourself, really educating your kids to do these things.
And you say hair accessories, too, so like your scrunchie, your hairband.
Hair accessories, too. Just really, your stuff is your stuff. If you can teach your child that, you're in really good shape. This time of year, weather's getting warmer, you might wear a coat to school, you go out on the playground for recess, throwing coats into piles. Not a great thing to do. When you come back into the classroom, a lot of times schools have hooks next to each other. So what I always encourage teachers to tell their students to do, either put the coat on the back of the chair, put it in a backpack if it's a little wet outside, bring one of those recyclable grocery bags from the store so it doesn't look like a plastic bag. Stuff your coat into that so it's not touching another kid's coat.
And I had never even thought about the fact that the coats are there in a big group. Of course they touch one another.
They do touch one another.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's a big prevention tip.
Okay, and then you had one other, which I think I never would have thought of, is be careful about borrowing or even retrieving things from lost and found.
Yes. So that's a common thing. So if the weather's chilly and a kiddo comes to school with no coat that morning, a teacher will often send them to the lost and found just to borrow something and put it back when they're done. But don't do that. I mean, the reality is that when there's a head lice issue, the bulk of the problem is on your head. They don't really live in your environment, but they can live 24 to 72 hours off a human host. Once they've been off a human host for longer than about 12 hours, they're really not capable of doing a whole lot of damage. But, you don't want to really borrow things from other people because you don't know how long it's been around.
Is it true that there's such a thing as lice repellent?
Yes, my company obviously sells lice repellent products. They act much like mosquito repellents. You put them on, they act as a barrier to the hair, but they also have ingredients in them that the lice don't like. So again, nothing's 100% foolproof, but products work really well to help prevent head lice. And it's just a light misting. It's not an oversaturation. It's hitting those core areas behind the ears, the nape of the neck. And the other key thing, which doesn't really sound like a prevention type measure, but frequent checking is a key preventative measure that we really stress to families when they come into us. A note comes home from school, what I used to do before my daughter got lice years ago, I'd kind of like, oh, not us, not our problem, and I'd put it aside. But now, I don't wait for the note to come home from school. I do once a week head lice checks on my child, Friday afternoon. 5 minutes will save you 5 hours, a lot of heartache, a lot of grief. So that's
We're just looking around on the scalp, and you can see these things pretty easily.
You know, I was on the show previously, and there's a video on my website, and I'm probably on your website still, about how to do a quick head lice check. Really encourage people to watch that, because you want to do a wet head lice check. You don't want to just peer through the head, you know, on a dry scalp, because honestly, if you haven't dealt with this before, you don't know what you're looking for. People think nits, which are the eggs, are white. They're not white. When you wet your head and comb them out with a lice comb and wipe them into a paper towel, they are brown or gray. Bugs are bugs, you know, you pretty much can tell they look like bugs. But, you know, nits are hard to distinguish. They have that oval shape. They're laid on one side of the hair shaft or the other. And there's some key distinguishing factors, and it really helps to do the wet head lice check. It's a very accurate method. So
we are going to post that video and your other prevention tips, and also what we do to treat on our website to make sure that everybody knows. So thank you, Nancy. Nancy's lice removal business is called, as she mentioned, Lice Knowing You, which I just love. We'll post a link to her website where you can find out about spotting lice and the most effective treatments. That's at king5.com/new day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's good advice year round. Still ahead, it's a contest spotlighting people from all walks of life with one thing in common: they're working to make a difference. We're going to meet the winners of the one winner this morning of the prestigious Jefferson Award, just announced 5 minutes ago, when New Day Northwest continues.